In the quaint town of Willowbrook, where secrets lurked behind white picket fences, Margaret Whitmore lived a seemingly perfect life. She was a 35-year-old schoolteacher, married to Robert, a charming and successful businessman. Their love story was the envy of many, but beneath the surface lay cracks too small for the world to notice. Margaret felt trapped in a gilded cage, her dreams of adventure long overshadowed by her loyalty to her husband. One rainy afternoon, as Margaret sought refuge in Willowbrook's public library, she stumbled upon a man flipping through an old leather-bound book. The man, with silver streaks in his jet-black hair and a rugged demeanor, seemed out of place in the quiet town. He introduced himself as Henry Caldwell, a historian researching local folklore. Their conversation began innocently enough, but as the hours melted away, Margaret felt an inexplicable pull toward this mysterious stranger. Days turned into weeks, and Margaret found herself drawn to the library more often, hoping to encounter Henry. Their shared love for literature and history quickly blossomed into a deep friendship. Henry's stories of far-off places ignited a spark in Margaret's heart, a spark that had been extinguished for years. Despite the growing bond, Margaret reminded herself of her commitments. She loved Robert, or at least the idea of him. Yet, with Henry, she felt seen in a way she never had before. He listened to her dreams and fears without judgment, and his gentle presence became her solace. On a crisp autumn evening, Margaret and Henry attended a local historical society's gala. As they stood beneath a starlit sky, the unspoken tension between them finally erupted. Henry brushed a stray curl from Margaret's face and whispered, "I've tried to fight this, Margaret, but I can't deny how I feel." Margaret's heart raced as she replied, "Henry, this is wrong. We can't do this." But the magnetic pull between them was too strong to resist. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, and for the first time in years, Margaret felt truly alive. The guilt of their stolen moment weighed heavily on Margaret. She avoided Henry for weeks, throwing herself into her marriage. But her efforts were in vain. Robert's distant demeanor and long business trips only amplified her loneliness. One evening, while sorting through old photos, Margaret discovered a series of receipts and hotel bookings that didn't add up. Her hands trembled as she realized Robert had been unfaithful. The betrayal shattered her, but it also gave her clarity. If her marriage was built on lies, why should she deny her own happiness? Determined to confront Robert, Margaret waited for him to return from his latest trip. When he arrived, she presented the evidence and demanded an explanation. Robert's face turned pale, but he didn't deny the accusations. "Margaret," he said, "we've been living as strangers for years. I didn't know how to tell you, but I've fallen out of love." The honesty stung, but it also liberated Margaret. She realized her own heart had moved on long before Robert's betrayal. Margaret sought solace in Henry once more, and this time, she allowed herself to embrace their connection fully. They spent hours exploring Willowbrook's hidden gems, sharing dreams of a future together. Yet, their love was not without challenges. Gossip spread like wildfire, and Margaret faced judgment from friends and neighbors. Henry's past also came to light. He was a widower whose wife's tragic death had left him broken for years. Margaret became his beacon of hope, and together, they vowed to face the world's disapproval. Just as their relationship began to stabilize, Robert returned with an unexpected proposition. He wanted to reconcile, not out of love, but to maintain his reputation. Margaret faced the toughest decision of her life: return to a hollow marriage or pursue a love that defied societal norms. In a heart-wrenching confrontation, Margaret chose Henry. "I've spent too long living for others," she told Robert. "It's time I live for myself." Margaret and Henry left Willowbrook, seeking a fresh start in a town where no one knew their past. They built a life rooted in honesty and passion, proving that love could flourish even in the most unconventional circumstances. Over time, Margaret's family and friends came to accept her choice, seeing the happiness that radiated from her and Henry. Though their journey was fraught with challenges, Margaret and Henry's love stood as a testament to the resilience of the human heart. Their story became a whispered legend in Willowbrook, a tale of forbidden love that transcended boundaries and healed broken souls. Years later, as Margaret and Henry strolled hand in hand through a park, They reflected on their journey. "Do you ever regret it?" Henry asked softly. Margaret smiled. "Not for a moment. Every whisper of doubt led me to you. And with you, I've found my home."